So I outlined the border, the frame that I'm going to be using. I could actually lower maybe this part down here so I have more space for lettering, and just still thinking about doing that because I don't know if I would like to cut into her, cut the top part of the border into her, basically her hair. I could make it it could work, but the beauty of acrylic painting, and that's why I really started to paint with acrylics, is they dry fast and then you can change them if you don't like something. So it's really hard to change something with watercolors and then change your mind. You kind of have to have an original idea that you stay with. It's really not much space for fluctuations. So I think I could even add like a rose here as well, so that the wording Cinco de Mayo would be more on top. It wouldn't have to, go in that curved line. And I just found this absolutely gorgeous sort of wallpaper that I will be using to fill, because the colors I think are perfect for this idea. So it basically starts with orange background. So I'm gonna use mostly the color as an inspiration, and I can just add to it whatever. Except the only orange I have is pretty much dried up, but it's that really bright orange, basically fluorescent orange. And this is actually a textile color, which I never used. I bought these a long time ago. They were like on sale for $5 because I guess they were not used enough. And you're supposed to use it for textiles, and if I mix it with water, I can probably still experimenting with it, because I always wanted to make my own shirt. Interestingly enough, this poster art really that I am working on could be done on a shirt. That's why I love poster art, because I love storytelling art, which poster art really is. It tells some sort of a story. It's got lettering with it. So I'm mixing vermilion, which in itself is almost sort of like this orange color. I'll show you. This is kind of an inexpensive acrylic Master Touch color. So this is vermilion, but it's still a bit too red. I want some more of an orangey tone to it. Yeah, like really bright. I also think that the background in this wallpaper that I'm sort of following was dark. It was almost painted like on a really, because you can see that even though the orange is really bright, it has sort of depth to it. This one just gives me like really kind of plastic orange. So I wonder if I should be doing that. It's almost like it has green in it. But there's a difference between mixing green into your color and using background. So I'll show you. So this is my cobalt turquoise, and I think it's mixed a little bit more. It's like a blue tone. So this might be more of a blue, and this is just a turquoise. And it's not blue enough. It's almost as if it was mixed. Let me see. Ooh, this is really blue. Actually, it might be mixed with the orange. Yeah, this is more kind of what I want. So I'm gonna go into my figure. So I'm actually painting the background before. I'm gonna take the turquoise and mix it with the, it's gonna mix my color. I'm gonna mix it with with the vermilion. It's gonna give me more depth. So I'm just gonna go into the background first because it's what I want as a background. I could go first with the figure, paint the figure first, but then I don't know what I want to match the, I'm still not sure if I'm doing this right. I think I'm looking more for the turquoise cobalt. So this is what happened when I'm not prepared, and still mix it a little bit with the vermilion because I want more of a depth of a color. So I'm going pretty dark here. So I'm actually starting with the and we're gonna have to let this dry. So I'm doing this basically at night, and doing this at night. So I'm gonna let it dry overnight, and then in the morning I'm gonna try to do the orange over it, and I'm gonna see if I was right. You know, to start with the dark and then go in. It's you know, I'm usually, most of the time I'm not prepared. I just kind of go on the fly with everything, and then I have to do it a few times. But I love actually that process because I feel, you know, that I'm too strict sometimes. And actually I like this hair kind of going just to more to one side, as if there was wind blowing on her side, and just making it more symmetrical. So in this case, what's going to happen is we're just going to, probably should have used bigger brush. We're just going to take the orange and then we're going to paint around the flowers. So we're going to be left, actually around the leaves. The leaves are going to be the one with the blue. And so I'll see if I was right. I could have really actually painted the whole canvas. I wouldn't have to worry about the border yet because it will probably look better that way as well. You know, the border, if it's going to be like yellow, it would probably, the yellow probably would have the same effect being painted over the darker color. But maybe I do want it to stand out more. So we'll see. I can always change it. I have no idea how that happened. So I want it to be a little bit more smoother. I'm just going to mix it a little bit. Now her figure actually stands out a little bit more. And you know, you can use the blue to actually paint this part maybe. Maybe this is going to be a little different. So what I like about Mexican art is all these gorgeous colors. Just, you know, they're not very muted paintings. They always have these bright colors. They just choose. It's kind of like a poster art. It really stands out. It just it gives you an idea, you know, of the culture, where it's coming from this just really kind of desert heat, you know. And if it was in California, there's just really a lot of hot areas in the Sun Valley, and so it's just really bright, sunny art. That's what I love about it. So you can just kind of like really go with any bold color you want to choose, and just not really have to apologize for her. You know, she could have like a really this golden dress maybe. And so I'm going to let it dry, and then in the morning I'm going to show you how we're going to block out the colors, and then I'm gonna fill her dress and her face. All right, so I'm sort of prepared in here. I chose my colors, and if it mattered, I would say good morning to you, but in this video, it doesn't really matter what time we're doing this. So I'm gonna put some of this magenta here. This is a matte heavy body, and I am using all kinds of colors. Obviously, I'm going for the pigment, not necessarily the type of color, and it's acrylic. I'm not mixing oil or acrylics. These are all acrylics. They just probably used in different ways for different purposes. This one is matte. It's a Sennelier color, and it has a lot of texture in it. I wanted to try matte colors, and so I was really attracted to this particular line. But when I went to the checkout, she said, oh, these are great, and they also have a lot of texture. And I'm like, well, maybe I don't want a texture, but maybe in this case it will help me to cover the background. So I'm going to paint these pink or violet roses here. And because she's a little bit to the left, maybe I'll put more emphasis on the right side to put my bigger roses. So let's see how this is going to work. So I'm going to put a rose here, just the shape of it, and maybe see how the petals would be there. And usually the larger petals and the roses are on the outside, so you would see more light falling there. And then on the inside it's darker, so I don't have to put that much color inside. And maybe I'll just put a smaller rose here and just another something here. So again, just sort of creating kind of composition with roses. One here. And here I'm just very loosely going by the image that I have in front of me of the wallpaper. And then put one here. And then a few of them here on the left side, not as many of them, because I'm trying to sort of balance the image in front of me. So I'm not going to put too many roses on the left side, and I think this will pretty much do. And as these roses are drying, I can definitely see the texture staying here. And I'm not sure if I like this or not, but it doesn't, the color doesn't necessarily even give me that much of a coverage, but it does leave the texture. Normally acrylics would sort of sink down into the surface. This one kind of, stays shaped the way it was. So you can definitely see the brush strokes in there, and it's definitely matte. So maybe I try a different kind of magenta. I just wanted to try this out. So anyway, so the next thing we're doing is leaves, and I finally found the right color, I think, and this one is emerald green. So I think that's the one that's in the picture that I really liked. And interestingly enough, the emerald green here is not just the leaves, but it's also roses. One of the roses is green, or a few of them. So it's just the picture. So obviously this one is not matte. So it's going to be, sort of a contrast here in color. And this is actually colorful fabrics that I had laying around. And so we'll see how this one is going to act. And this one actually has a pretty nice coverage. And I like that it's not so matte right now, but it's because it's obviously still wet. Yeah, the violet or the pink just dried out too matte for me. So I'm just gonna see. So there's almost like a rose here. So I'm gonna put more. And I can even, hardly see the other roses anymore. The pink ones, they just kind of really flattened into the background. So I'm just trying to paint some leaves, just shapes of them, just idea of, how roses have those kind of pointed leaves, kind of smaller shapes. And here and here, I still don't have to have a lot of details. It's just giving me an idea. I'm going to work with my composition here. And you can really see how when I added a little bit more roses on this side, it just sort of balanced my image a little bit better. All right, so just gonna be good with that. So this color is for fabrics, and we'll see how it stays on. So I'm gonna use different kind of pink. I'm gonna use magenta, and I also have this really bright fluorescent pink again. And I was wondering, I also have this pink. So this is again another. So this one is for synthetic fabrics, and this one is also for synthetic fabrics. I don't know, this one is a little bit more pinker, and this is the orange color that I was going to use in the background. So I'm not going to use this one because I think it would give me a little bit of a muddy color because there's a yellow in there. So I'm not going to use yellow for pink, but I could use more white in here actually. I'm just going to see if I have some white. Here's another pink, fluorescent pink, which is from Golden's. Actually, this is fluorescent red. And this one has a little bit more yellow in there as well. So I think that would give me, again, this kind of a muddy pink. And here is another, so this is purple. That could possibly work. This is just really gorgeous, very cool purple color that if it was mixed with white, and I'm kind of realizing in horror that I don't have white. There's a white here, which is again, this is opaque acrylic. It looks yellow on the outside, but actually is pretty white inside. So I'm going to test this white. I'm going to put this. I don't have any other white here in my home studio. Everything is in my big studio, but there's a lot of construction going there right now, so I can't really record there. All right, so let's try mixing these. So this is the magenta. See if I can get a little bit more lighter pink. I think this is kind of what I'm going for. So I'm gonna try to do just a little bit more petals here, and my green has not really dried yet, so I have to be a little bit more careful. So I'm just gonna do just few excuse me, just few highlights on the petals. I think the ideal with like a wallpaper, wow, there's excuse me, something really strong in these colors and these pigments. I can really, it just really irritates my lungs. You know, sometimes if we don't even smell colors, they might not be so great for us to breathe. And I think with the textile paints, like the ones I'm using, there probably is something there to help it sink into the textile. So there might be some chemical that I'm reacting to. So see how I'm like just really painting this very loosely, because you can add more detail later on once you start playing around with it. And then there actually is a little bit more orangey color, but I'm gonna actually try. So not as cool. There actually is. These paints are so old. I had these for such a long time, and I'm always surprised how long they last. So this is just going to be really bright, but it will make sense a little bit later. So there's like a few lighter highlights in these roses. So this is definitely has like a little bit more warmth to it now. So you can actually add it in a little bit to these highlights. And I also see just this little petal. So I definitely love to paint more in an expressive way because it's just a little bit more fluid. And eventually, once, you know, the more and more I work with the painting, the more details I may add to it. So this kind of outlines what I wanted to add in there, and I'll definitely work more with it. But let's try to mix that orange that I wanted to put into the background. And, you know, we can still do more, adding more foliage to it, like leaves. What I do with my, so I need my red color that I'm going to mix with the orange, but I wonder if this one will actually do. Boy, this is just so, this one is definitely dried up. Look how just bright that is. I wonder if I can just tone it down a little bit. Yeah, I think it actually, when you add the green to it, tones it down a little bit. I'm going to try this. Yeah, that's kind of the orange. So I don't have to even add any of the vermilion there. So, but I definitely need a little bit more water. So I'm going to start shaping those leaves a little bit more, the background. That is definitely bright, but it's exactly the color that I need. And even if I don't cover enough, I'm going to go over it a few times. So I'm gonna just try to add some leaves there. Just a little bit shaping it as I'm adding the negative space, right, of the wallpaper. And the, you know, starting with a dark background was definitely way to go, because just putting the orange over the white, it was just too pasty. I don't know the right words would be to describe it. All right, so yeah, that's gonna take me a little bit. So, you know, the idea is basically just to, you know, with the negative space, we're trying to shape the leaves, but if I add a little bit white to it, it becomes a little bit more opaque and also lighter. So I don't know if I like the brighter, lighter orange. So I'm gonna go easy on the white. But I guess I was trying to make it just a little bit more opaque. So you see how I'm shaping the leaves around that. And, you know, the background, it should not be so detailed, because we don't want, you don't want the image to sort of fight for attention with the background, right? So the fact that it's just kind of loose and almost like, you know, fading, the shapes are fading, they're not very distinct, and even the highlights are not so prominent. It's good. It's kind of a almost like a poster illustration, not so much. So it's more about the color mixing, the choice of colors, than the detail. And that's kind of, you know, what I like about looseness. Then when we loose, we have to focus more on the color choice, because the colors give us, you know, an idea of what's there, as opposed to, you know, they make the distinctions of the forms as opposed to the you know, the line or the shape. It's the color that will decide what the story is here. So we painting with color, and I think that's just what it's almost graphic, right? It's pretty graphic. It's not, the story is told by the color, but also obviously we have the shape, we have the Madonna there, so there's another part of the story, but the color is definitely the leading character here. And that's why I love Mexican art, because it's very bold in there. I guess some of it can be subdued, you know, in more of the darker paintings. But they're you know, even when it's dark, the color is still pretty intense. All right, so seeing too many brush strokes. So I liked when I had a little bit more. Maybe I can put the green in there again. So I'm trying to do better coverage. And possibly we're going to add just a little bit more layers of this. So when this dries and I don't really like the brush strokes and I want to make it a little bit more matte and opaque or whatever, I can do a few more layers here. But I actually like the texture of the brush strokes. You just try to make them going in different directions, so just not just one, you know, one way. And then once you organize this a little bit, then you can add a few more details again. But before I do that, because I'm pretty satisfied right now with the color choices I've made for my background, and I'm not so focused on wondering what is going to be going on there. You know, I've kind of made that decision. Maybe I should start choosing, and I should have probably added this a little bit more here. So I don't want the border be as thick as that. And if your leaves don't come out great, or you feel like you didn't put enough leaves there, you can always add more in. You know, this is not the end all. So for the background, for the border, before I do anything else, I wanted to use sort of golden yellow, so that would be like raw sienna. I wonder if I have something like that. So raw sienna is in here, and I can eventually put more highlights. So this is pretty like it's almost like a brown color, raw sienna is. But I'm just gonna go with it, and eventually I can put more highlights. And it's almost very close to the orange, so it's not gonna stand out too much. And I can also make other decisions about the border, so it doesn't have to be just thick a border. It could have lines in it to make some reliefs in it and stuff. So even though it looks like it's almost like that orange color, which actually makes me wonder that I could have used this raw sienna. And this is Master's Touch Thick Body. Raw sienna. And Master's Touch, I think it's a different company that puts it out. It could be it could be just another company that has that line, because but it probably is Master's Touch, because they do have, like, these are more professional. I mean, they're not like high-end professional, they're more professional. Then there is a one, is a less expensive one, and I think and that one is the just the acrylic. So this one is acrylic thick body, and I really like these, and they're not so expensive. They actually, I get them usually where I buy them, they have sales, and I get them 40% off sometimes. So I try to grab them when they're on sale, so that I get a nice discount there. And you know, I go through magenta so much. Magenta is like one of my favorite colors. I love, like, you know, just regular red, or I love vermilion. I love that one. I also love trying to think of it. I just kind of forgot. Carmine. Red carmine. I think it's carmine. Well, I know it's made out of, that pigment is made out of a crustacean that lives in Mediterranean. It's cochineal, I think that's what it is, carmine color, made out of that pigment. It's just such a gorgeous pigment. It's this like a pinkish red. It just has that like that rose color, that's just that beautiful, gorgeous rose color. So I'm gonna try to even this out so it's a nice arch, so it's symmetrical. And I always laugh how I just love to eye things out. I don't like to use any tools to help me with more arches or lines or anything. I don't know if it's laziness or if it just, I just like to challenge myself, you know, can I do this line so it looks right? And so we have this blue color, which I actually kind of love there. I also don't want to get rid of it. I just love that blue there. And this is more like ultramarine blue. It's again one of these colors, the neo opaque colors. And this one just says blue, but I think it's pretty much ultramarine blue. You know, on the spectrum it would be kind of a cool, it's a cool blue. It's the sky color. So this is when it's dry. And I'm gonna make the arch a little bit better. I'm always so worried that I forgot to turn on the camera, and that it did happen once. I was explaining something really important, and when I was done with the video, I was like, oh, this was, you know, this was really good. It went really well, and I just really like what I painted. And then I look at my camera, and it didn't have them. I forgot to press the button, so I was just so disappointed. All right, so I actually like this warmth that's coming at me from this painting. I know it needs a lot of work, but basically what I've established was my color palette here, you know, the colors that I've been working with, and that's kind of what I wanted to do. And so in my next, you know, project in here is going to be finding out what colors I am going to add to her to complement my color scheme of the background. And am I going to make her lighter so it just really stands out, which I'm really kind of drawn to doing here, or am I going to kind of like make her look almost like she's part of it? But there should definitely be some contrast between her and the background. So probably make it a little bit lighter, but I still want to choose the colors that will really complement with the background. So we're gonna, next session, we're gonna work with her, and then we are going to choose our lettering and the border. So we have a little bit more to do. This is trying to dry just a little bit too dark. So what I would always also like to work on is maybe just give this another coat when it dries. So it's not dry yet, so when it dries I'll give it another coat. All right, so I'll see you in the next video.